Hii ni Buddha Boss Live, manika kinuka tunakausha na kama K mti yangu. Leo ni Super Sunday, mali tunapenda kuchambua vitu mbili tatu za Biblos. Na mazetu tumekuwa tukiwako on series fulani ya stories za deliverance. Tukijaribu kuangalia different aspects mazee kuhusu history ya deliverance. Ndio tujue mazee kuna substance matter ndani yake ama ni vipi. Buddha wakisema that like father like son. Swali ni kuna spiritual things mti yangu zenye zinaweza kuwa handed down generationally. Buddha, does how you are conceived, how you are born, to whom you are conceived mti yangu, have any significance for your current life sai? Hii ndio kama neno Pastor Steve Jonathan Mwangi anajaribu kutufungulia. Kama K, cheki, uliza maswali mti yangu. Jengeka. Teke. Wacha tupate neno.
Yo, everybody. It's so exciting always to talk about the things of God. It's always very, very adventurous to discover who we are from the biblical perspective. And last time we were talking about our naming and how it can contribute to the bondage situation that we may be facing. And in this chapter, I want to talk about how you were born, and we want to talk a bit about who are your parents. Now, one of the main things that we must always remember in the back of our minds is this, that the principle of creation is based on the principle of seed and fruit out of seed. Seed and fruit or crop out of the seed. When God made everything, in Genesis chapter 1 and 2, he basically talked about seed and its kind. Whether it's trees, we have seeds of trees and their kind. If it's fruits, we have fruits of seeds and their kind. So the principle we are grown with is that whatever you plant is what you harvest. Whatever you put in the ground is what you produce as a harvest. Similarly, in human life, we begin by being seeds. And we look like, we behave like, a lot like the people who conceived us or came together in a union that produced us. And so therefore, that's why when you look at yourself in the mirror, guess what? You see a bit of your mbuyu, you see a bit of your mom, you see a bit of your auntie. Those statements are things that allude to the fact that we are truly products of who, made us seed. And so therefore, this truth or principle functions naturally and it also functions spiritually. This is why in some scriptures in the Bible, for example, it's in Titus, I believe, chapter 1 verse 5, or 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 5, it talks about the fact that Timothy is a product of his grandmother and mother in terms of his faith life. And Apostle Paul actually said, that faith I see in you now was in your mother and in your grandmother before. Spiritually speaking, it is possible to pass on spiritual genes, so to speak. The word generation comes from genes. Genes are what define who you are like, or how do you look, or your behavior, or the kind of person that you are. And we take after our parents. And therefore, if we are seeds, then therefore we must ask ourselves, what is the seed that defined us when we were being conceived? Now, we know very clearly that our parents came together to produce us. However, if we are to begin to examine each parent and how they produced you, then we begin to understand some of the things that have made us the way we are today. For example, if they were not properly married in what we would call biblical marriage pattern, where Matthew 19:6 says, whatever God has joined together, let no man separate, which implies that God was involved in joining the two people then very many times we discover that we have parents who were involved in fornication, or they were involved in adultery, or there was some rape situation. And here is the real reality, my friend. You can be a product of fornication. That means you are a seed of fornication. So if you are a seed of fornication, what are you going to produce? Guess what? Fornication. If you are a seed of adultery, then you are a person who will produce adultery in your life. If you are a seed of rape, then guess what? You just might produce rape in your life. And you ask yourself, what does that mean? How can I be a producer of rape? This is what happens in reality. If you were raped at some point, then what happens is, if your parents were raped at some point, or your mother was raped at some point, and you grew up or you are conceived from that union, then what it does is, as a spiritual law, you begin to attract spirits called rape. And at some point, if you are a man, either you go and rape women, or a situation comes where you are raped, and vice versa for women. And it has sometimes such strong pattern accuracy. A situation where a woman was raped at the age of 14 and her daughter is raped at the age of 14, almost to the month in terms of sharp accuracy. Well, this is the principle of seed and fruit, or seed and harvest, which is at work in many people's lives. And you know, the reality of this is this, that those trends and those patterns, you can pray and you can fast about them on your own. You can go to seminars and conferences, and as long as you are not dealing with them as far as the seed or root is concerned, it will be an exercise in futility, or what we just call public relations. You will just be cosmetic, you'll be doing cosmetic activity that doesn't touch where the root of the matter is. These are requirements of foundational correction that I am talking about. Where your parents come from and what they did to come together is a huge basis of argument for the spirit world. Were you also, secondly, very important point, born to a family or to a couple who were in disagreement about your birth? In other words, you were an accident. You were not planned for. So what happens after such a union, when you are not born out of agreement, is that the spirit realm is able to ride on your life by what is called rejection. A spirit that is known as a rejection spirit can actually have legal status to live in you and actually shape your character into a certain type of personality who actually is not able to express themselves the way God intended. These principles are real. And I am telling you, as I'm speaking now, I can feel the Holy Spirit tell me, some of you watching are actually victims of what I am describing. How you were born is extremely important. How you were conceived is extremely important. Who conceived you is extremely important. It is actually possible by genes to pass on a certain spiritual nature. And because of that, we have to do a forensic investigation of your life through these teachings and these classes that can be of great assistance to correct your foundations. Stay tuned, because I am building more on this one. Ini noma. Karibu sana.
We, habari ndo hiyo mti yangu mazee, kucheki all the stories zenye tumefanya so far, the different segments tumecover kwa history ya deliverance. Click hii link iko hapa chini one time, and of course, like, follow, share, subscribe na uliza maswali ujengeke. Au sio? #deliverance manenos. Takeona. Yeah.